The New Ulm League of Women Voters Candidate Forum featuring the candidates for the District 88 School Board and Brown County Commissioner District 5 tonight. My name is Linda Heine and I'm the Voter Service Chair for League of Women Voters, your host this evening. The League of Women Voters is a local, state, and national organization. We are a nonpartisan volunteer group of individuals, and we encourage informed and active participation of citizens in government, and we influence public policy through education and advocacy. Tonight's event is designed to create opportunities to educate the voters and allow our candidates the opportunity to share their views with the community. League of Women Voters membership is open to all persons, and we would welcome the opportunity to talk to anyone who might be interested in joining us. We have lots of members here tonight helping out with the forum. You will recognize us by our buttons. Tonight's forum is being recorded and will be rebroadcast by NewCat and KNUJ, also being covered by the Journal, and we thank our local media for the great coverage that we receive for these events. The video for tonight's event will be uploaded on YouTube and available at the League of Women Voters New Ulm Facebook page, as well as NewCat's YouTube channel. The broadcast schedule, KNUJ will be rebroadcasting this event on October 28th, that's Sunday, at 6:05. NewCat's schedule shows the school board on tomorrow at 8 p.m., and the county commissioner race will be on tomorrow at 6 p.m. The NewCat will probably be re-showing this event as well as some of our other forums. Just watch their schedule at the City of New Ulm website for additional times. Tonight, we're going to start with the school board, with thinking maybe that'll go till about 8:15 or so, and then we'll turn we'll take a short break and switch to the commissioners. The moderator for the school board tonight is Edie Tostenson of St. Peter League of Women Voters. She's going to be moderating tonight because one of the candidates is a member of League, and we want to avoid any suggestion of a conflict of interest. So we're grateful to have Edie here. The forum moderator for the Commissioner Forum will be Jeannie Hinsman, who's a New Ulm member. So that's all I have, and I'll turn it over now to Edie. Thank you.
Okay, let's go. Great, thank you, Linda. My name is Edie Torstenson, and I will serve as your moderator this evening. Tonight, candidates will answer questions presented from audience members and the League of Women Voters pursuant to a nonpartisan, unbiased, and impartial format established by the League of Women Voters of Minnesota. Our purpose is to facilitate an opportunity to hear the candidates discuss the issues of importance to the public in this election. Audience members will submit questions in writing to our ushers. Please raise your hand and an usher will come to pick up your written question. The League of Women Voters will screen the questions we receive. We may rephrase, combine, or eliminate questions to avoid duplication. Questions will not be asked if they are of a personal nature and not relevant to the office, or if they are designed only to make a statement rather than solicit information. Our intention in screening questions is to select questions that represent the interests of the persons who submit them. Please contact the candidates directly after the forum for any questions that have not been presented or if you feel that an issue has not been adequately addressed. New Ulm Cable Access Television and KNUJ Radio are recording the event this evening and will rebroadcast the event, as you heard earlier. There are 4 candidates running for District 88 School Board. Mr. Gogg, Steve Gogg, Amanda Grabner, Melissa Sunderman, and Dwayne Winter. Good evening. We look forward to a respectful learning experience. The candidates are expected to honor time limits. We ask that the audience remain as quiet as possible during the forum to avoid disruption and to facilitate our broadcast. Allow me to take a moment to ask that everyone silence their mobile phones. Anyone wishing to record tonight's forum on their mobile phone is asked to please not block others' view or cause disruption. Thank you. So here's how the forum will work. Each candidate will introduce themselves with a short statement with a 1.5-minute time limit. Upon completion of the introductions, each candidate will be given 2 minutes to respond to questions, which I will read. I will alternate the order of response, so each candidate will answer first on an alternate question. Candidates, you each have the opportunity to offer a 1-minute rebuttal to 2 questions total, if you choose. Please hold up the card provided to signal your intent to make your rebuttal. So those are the cards that are marked R1 and R2. So let's begin. Candidates will be allowed 2 minutes for a closing statement. So let's begin with introductions in alphabetical order as you're seated, beginning with Mr. Gogg.
Good evening. I'm Steve Gogg. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for this forum tonight. I'm married to Michelle. She's a 5th grade teacher with the district. We have 2 children in college and 2 children in public schools in New Ulm. I was born and raised in New Ulm and am committed to serving this community. I currently serve on the Activities Committee, Facilities Committee, the Negotiations Committee, and the Technology Committee. I'm in my 8th year on the board and would like to be reelected to the school board for many reasons. Some of those reasons, in the past 8 years, this community has united and passed 2 very important referendums for the public school, and I really like the direction that we're going. I feel I am part of the reason the community has confidence in the school board and supports the public schools. 8 years ago, and again 4 years ago, I stated that I would like to see more families get involved at the schools and be proud of their community public school. Every year, more families are getting involved, and we need to continue that trend.
Thank you. Ms. Grebner?
Yeah, hi, good evening. My name is Amanda Grebner. First, I'd like to thank the League also for putting on this forum, and I'd also like to thank everybody that's in the audience attending and listening or watching at home. I've been involved in education for over 20 years. I've taught preschoolers at the Science Museum of Minnesota, inner city students at Camp St. Croix Environmental Education, college students at the University of Minnesota, and all kinds of subjects and ages in between. 8 years ago, my husband Nate and I chose to move to with our 2 children back to New Ulm, his hometown. I immediately sought out opportunities to be involved in the schools. I volunteered in both of my kids' classrooms, helping out wherever the teachers needed me to be. I joined the ISD 88 referendum committees in 2012 and 2014 because growing up, I had the benefit of living in a community that passed a lot of referendums, and I understood how that was important to my education. To share my love of science, I volunteered at Putting Green as an environmental educator, field trip leader, and I became a board member of that organization. And finally, I also joined the board of ISD 88 Foundation, and I've served on that for 6 years. I'm currently the vice president. I would like to continue to support the students of New Ulm and be a voice for the residents of our community, and I can do that by being a member of the school board. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sunderman?
Good evening, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting our candidate forum this evening. I'm Melissa Sunderman, and I am excited to be running for the school board. I grew up in New Ulm and graduated from New Ulm High School. I am the parent of 2 children, one who has graduated from New Ulm High School and one who is currently in our high school. I've had the privilege of serving our community, teachers, staff, and students for 1 term on the school board, and I look forward to hopefully serving a 2nd term. I have volunteered in our community, school, and church in many different capacities. I believe all children deserve a quality education. I will continue to respect, value, and encourage the involvement, and contributions of our parents, our staff, our students, and our community. I believe it's the board's responsibility to focus on creating an environment where every child has the opportunity to succeed. I am committed to continue supporting the improvements and taking our educational system to an even higher level than where we are now. And it would be an honor to serve on the board.
Thank you. Mr. Winter?
Hi, I am Dwayne Winter, and I am I am the longest serving board member right now. So I was elected in 2004, I believe, the first time. I've been on I was first elected in 2007. So this is my 12th year on the board and 9th year as the board chairman. I have owned Taco John's business in New Ulm for 28 years and sold that business about 7 years ago, I think it was. Since then, I have went back to school and got a minor and become an alcohol and drug counselor, and then spent the last 2 years getting my master's, and I'm now a mental health therapist also. So I really value education, and I see our community as or community members as lifelong learners. And I think a lot of times that people only think of K through 12 when they think of our school districts. And we have a lot of preschool stuff going on, and we are in charge of community education all the way up to whenever people are want to learn something new, we offer some great classes. So we really do have our plates full here, and it's fun to be involved in all of that stuff. So I would say that the first 6 years that I was on the board were really challenging, lots of budget cuts. I have 4 children that have been through the school system and graduated, and 2 grandchildren that are in preschool right now. And so in that time, I have seen a lot of changes and a lot of positive changes. Thank you.
Thank you. The first 2 questions were drafted by the League of Women Voters of New Ulm and provided to the candidates in advance. The first question is, identify the top 3 challenges to District 88 in the next 2 years and your plan to meet these challenges. Not really questions, are they? That was just, that's a request. So we'll start with Mr. Winter.
Okay, so I just went with, and again, we're a board, so we all work together. So I think that first of all, if we have challenges, we need to come together as a board in work sessions, study sessions, and also in meeting with the superintendent and discussing what these, what our desires are. The 3 that we've come up with, or that I think are important, are keep test scores rising. So we have a goal based on 3% of raising test scores. I agree with that, although I also feel that the legislature's put their nose in too much, and we depend on test scores too much. So I really want us to keep working towards educating the whole child. I think that we need more recess, more art, more music, and stuff like that. So while I know that we need to have test scores raised, it kind of, it's a little double-edged sword there. Personalized learning plans for all, I think, is really important. I think we need to individualize how students learn, and because we all learn in different ways and different manners. And I know when I grew up, the teacher stood in front of the classroom and she taught. Well, that is, there are just a plethora of different ways of teaching nowadays, and I think that we need to individualize to each student, or as best as we can, and give the teacher the technology and the ability to do that. And then mental health, I think, and physical health, I think, are so important and really are big challenges. I struggle with our schools becoming a one-stop for all. We don't think we can solve all problems, but I do think that we could offer resources and education in, teaching people coping skills, communication skills, problem-solving skills, not just the kids, but also the families. So I think those are the 3 biggest areas. And I think that, again, offering the resources and to teachers, staff, and to our families.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Sunderman, please.
The top 3 challenges that I see are behavior issues, our paras, and educational funding. With behavioral issues, we need to continue to identify our students early and help get interventions started for them. I feel that it's important to also get our parents involved and to get the parents and families the support they need as well for these children. We have good intervention systems and programs that are in place now currently, and we need to continue to build on those and do research on what else is available to continue to improve. And for paras, it seems like we are always in need of paras, and I know that it is a tough position. And I feel we need to make sure that our paras are getting adequate training so that they feel comfortable and they feel supported by the school. I also feel that our paras who work with the same students should be involved in some of the meetings, like the IEP meetings and things, because these paras are with those students all day, every day, and they may have some insight that would be valuable and important in those meetings as well. And for the educational funding, the reason I think that's a challenge is because that this is a election year, and we never know how our elections will turn out. So we don't know what'll happen at federal, state levels. and what they will decide in the future for funding for public schools. So I feel that we need to continue as a board and as a district to budget cautiously and then continue to use all the resources we have and be fiscally responsible with those.
Thank you. And now we'll go on to Mr. Gog.
I think the number one challenge we're facing is student mental health. When we'll discuss it a little future in the next question. Beyond that, as a board, we've identified many challenges and set up goals for them, and they include things like test scores, increasing them for all students, creating personalized learning for all students, and building upon the confidence and support of our community. Our administration has worked together to put together a strategy to accomplish these goals, and is working with the teachers to implement the strategies at every level. So I think that's, as a board, that's things that we've come up together to discuss, and it's really helping out there, get everybody on the same page. I think also to help with some of these challenges, the board needs to continue to support all employees of the district, to continue to review progress and listen when changes are required.
Thank you. Ms. Grebner.
So schools all across the state are confronting many of the same challenges. So I've thought really hard about what I think are the three. And the first one is preparing our students for life after high school, whichever path they choose. The business community and District 88 have a really good working relationship because they know that the success of one depends on the other. I would continue those partnerships and continue to seek out more opportunities. I'd also work to continually evaluate, enhance the use of the technology in our schools, and also the variety of courses that we are offering to ensure that we're appealing to multiple interests and learning styles, kind of that independent learning. The second challenge is student health, whether that's mental or physical. A school's job is to provide the best education possible for its students, and to do that we must address all aspects of that affect their learning. And it's not intuitive to think of health when you think of learning, but they are definitely linked. And I believe that the district has the opportunity to partner with the medical center and others to catch health issues, before they become a barrier to a student's learning. We could have screenings at open houses, we could offer summer health clinics, even have a clinic in a school. That's ideas that have been floated, and I support looking into all of those. Finally, the third challenge, like Melissa said, is school funding. Our school district's funding is currently healthy, but there is a bigger picture funding issue that needs to be addressed. A recent study showed that most schools in Minnesota are receiving less per pupil aid and getting more, relying more on property taxes than they ever have. And that's not sustainable for communities. And so I would try to work with the legislatures to make sure that state funding is getting up to the amounts that it needs to be.
Thank you. So now we'll move on to the second question that you've received in advance. The number of children diagnosed with mental health problems seem to be on the rise. What do you believe the school district should or could do to address this problem? And we'll begin with Ms. Grebner.
Oh, up again. So teachers are in the classroom to teach, and they're not trained in mental health issues. And the specialists in the schools that are qualified are spread really thin, and that's true all across the U.S., not just Minnesota. So the most obvious thing we can do is hire more counselors and psychologists and social workers, but that's a huge budget issue, and we've talked about how that in itself is an issue. The CDC says only 1 in 5 students, not only 1 in 5 students is in need of mental health issues, and only 20% of them are getting the help they need. So that means in a school classroom of 25 kids, 5 kids need help and only 1 is getting it. So I think we need to focus on those 4 kids. That's where we can put our resources. And unfortunately, mental health is a stigma in our community, so one of the main things we can do is talk about it in our schools. We can make it a part of the curriculum. We can highlight all of our mental health services at open houses, continually do it in newsletters, continually talk about it at school. There is help available, whether it's your counselors or student-linked mental health services, but I think a lot of parents just don't know what's available, and I think a lot of students don't know what's available. And so talking about it is one of the most important things. There are programs going on in the schools right now, Change to Chill at the high school, and that's to talk about stress reduction. Maybe that could be implemented in the elementary schools. And finally, we've got a great resource with the Heart of New Ulm and their mental health action team, and we could replicate things that they have done, including gratitude walls and kindness rocks, so that students can understand mental health in age-appropriate ways.
Thank you. Mr. Gog?
The school has been working on adding additional personnel over the past few years. We have. And again, it is not just a local problem. School districts, I think, everywhere are struggling with this. And so we are open to suggestions, and we are trying to do more. I think we should continue to train all of our employees on how to identify when others are in crisis so we can get everyone help in a timely manner. We need to continue to search for better ways and to support students and employees.
Thank you. Mr. Winter?
I think, more children are diagnosed. It's a good thing as they get more services. And again, I don't feel that our teachers are, trained in that area, and they shouldn't be required to, make those diagnoses. But I do feel that, we've done a good job, but we need to keep training them, offering them resources. We do a lot of professional development days, and I think that mental health, and not just for the students, it also includes what's going on in their families and stuff. If we can, be aware of if they're in crisis or their family's in crisis, where can we direct them? Curriculum that goes, I think, would be a great thing, because I don't think that there is stigma with it, and I don't think people want to be necessarily singled out, especially as they get older. I know that the therapy with the older kids that I do, they don't want to do therapy in school. They don't want to be singled out. We've talked about anxiety groups, and they get anxiety just thinking that they would have to go to an anxiety group, because again, there's that stigma. So I'm a big fan of educating everybody, making it part of the curriculum, the health curriculum, or however we want to do it. But they can learn coping skills, communication skills, problem solving skills. I've heard people, yoga is why are we wasting our time with yoga? Yoga is huge in getting people to be able to center and be present and be mindful and be able to learn. Meditation skills, just being able to, take a minute and breathe and slow down so that you can do things. So again, I just think there's so much that we can do. We are trying to get mental health professionals in there, but there just isn't enough mental health professionals around, and a lot of these problems come down to legislature.
And Ms. Sunderman?
I feel that we need to continue our focus on the whole child to help with this issue. We need to focus on their social, emotional, and physical needs. We need to make sure that we are supporting the families as well, and getting those families connected with resources or agencies or other aspects that can help with that as well. And I also feel like, as Steve noted, we have hired some additional staff in the counseling areas, but I feel that we should also take a look at hiring a licensed psychologist to have within our district to kind of be a lead and be there to do the support and do the training and help identify these children as early as possible. Because I know there are psychologists available in our community, but sometimes the cost is prohibitive to families, or getting the child to an appointment, where if we had someone in our buildings, I think that more children or more families may take advantage of that and get the help that they do need. And then I think our staff does need to make sure that we are getting training for them to help them identify maybe the early warning signs and help to get those students linked up with the effective support services as soon as possible. Yep.
Very good. Thank you very much. Now we'll have a question from the audience, and it's a two-part question, and I'll be happy to repeat it if you want me to. What methods can you suggest to first encourage New Ulm youth to consider education as a career, and second, recruit and retain top quality educators in our city? So, how do you encourage your students to become teachers, and how do you recruit top quality educators here in New Ulm? And we'll begin with Ms. Sunderman.
I think one of the ways to encourage our students to maybe follow the career path of education is to have quality educators and quality staff in our buildings as role models, because if one teacher makes a connection with one child, that stays with that child. And they feel that connection, they feel that support. There's a lot of children, and I know my daughter was one, that invited some of her elementary teachers to her graduation when she graduated. And I think that's important, and if those teachers don't have those connections with our students and they aren't quality educators to begin with, then that is a deterrent. So I think the better our staff is at connecting and teaching our students, I think that will give our students more opportunities to have that consideration of thinking of going into that field. And what was the second half?
And the second was, how do we recruit top-notch teachers?
I think just making sure that our school district looks inviting and looks welcoming, and that we are a leader in the area, and that staff or new teachers want to come and join our staff, and to see that our staff is excited about what they are doing. So I think that helps with recruiting. And then retaining is, we need to make sure that we're listening to our staff and that we are having conversations with our staff and having that open dialogue of what do you need to feel supported and to have to feel satisfied in your career every day. So.
Thank you. Mr. Winter?
Yeah, I agree with what Melissa said. So methods to get students to want to do that, I think it's just having teachers realize, and I do believe they already do, but realize how important the connections that they make with students are. I challenge teachers, or have in the past, in just to make sure that we don't connect to just the easy students, the ones that are, just kind of easygoing or whatever, but to also make sure that we are connecting, and not just teachers, but paras or cooks, secretaries, administration. Go out of your way to make a connection with somebody. It's proven that kids are like 70% more willing to get out of bed and come to school if they feel like somebody actually cares if they're there or not. So, just making sure I guess I just think that's huge. And then recruit and retain, I think our community has a lot to do with that. I think by funding our schools, our community has been so awesome and so loyal. At building a new school, I think, we had a lot of people that worked in craft or 3M and administration that lived out of town because our schools were run down and weren't innovative. And I think that that's changing the tide since we've built a new high school, realigned our other schools, being more up to date with the innovation and the curriculum. Professional development, we do at least 10 days a year of professional development for our teachers, realizing that if we give back to them, they will be better and give a lot more to our students. And I think that those are really important things. I think when we did our middle school curriculum, we paid for our teachers to come and learn, and then they got continuing ed credits to know how to do the middle school model and stuff. So I think that we've really put a lot of money into our teachers, and we need to continue doing that.
Thank you. Ms. Grebner?
Yeah, so I agree also with the good teachers in order to show kids what being a teacher is like. The reason why I'm in education and the sciences is a teacher that I had in high school. And another thing you can do is do mentorships with students in the upper grades, with students in the lower grades. I didn't ever think I was really going to be in education until I started being a teaching assistant and started getting that experience, and I thought, this is fun. I could see myself doing this. I thought I was going to be a research scientist for the longest time. So getting those experiences in the high school years could put students on a path a lot earlier than I was. As far as top quality teachers, we need to have a top-notch, top quality community, and I think we do. I think we, like Dwayne said with our referendum, we've shown that our community cares about its schools. There's great partnerships between our businesses and our schools now. We understand that we need to work together for the benefit of all, and I think that's really important. And we also need to remain competitive so that teachers that come here don't want to leave our district for another district that might be doing more of what they want to do. We need to be kind of the leaders. We want to be ahead of the curve instead of following the curve. And so I think we're doing a lot of that, especially with the early childhood center. I know someone that's a principal up in the cities, and she wishes that her district had what we had with the early childhood Washington Learning Center. So I think we're doing great things that other school districts are looking at and wish that they could have.
Thank you. Mr. Gog?
I think the number, these are all great reasons and great ways to increase. One of the best programs we have is the apprenticeship program, and I think some of the students do take that with teachers, not just other businesses. But yeah, making the connection with the students is the number one thing. You look back at high school, you remember that one, whether it's a teacher or a coach or what it is, that's how you get kids involved and get them interested in coming back. We've been doing a lot of things to market the school district, including marketing to teachers. Our website has been redone a couple times in the last 8 years. We have all of our information on there, policies. You can take a virtual tour of the schools. And there's other school districts modeling what we're doing. And so I think we have a lot of ways to attract new teachers and keep them.
Thank you. The next question is about childcare. That subject has come up in another context, so we'll continue with that. Childcare. Rural Minnesota and the city of New Ulm currently face a shortage of childcare. What role do you believe the school district can play in solving this problem, and what efforts do you intend to advance as a school board member to solve this problem? And we will begin with Mr. Gog.
I don't think this is a new issue for the city. My wife used to do daycare, and she felt the struggles of licensing and retaining good clients. I don't know that I have the answer, but I think the school district is doing a few things to help, including the Early Childhood Center out at Washington School. I think we keep continuing to grow that. We've got a waiting list, and we keep trying to get more employees to help so we can make that waiting list smaller. But as far as the big problem, I don't have the final answer.
Ms. Grebner?
I think in this case, and this is true not just in our school, but just in our community as a whole, that partnerships are really important. I think that the school district could partner with businesses in the community, people that want to run daycares and have facilities that we all share the resources for. That's an opportunity. I know a lot of businesses in other places have on-site daycare, so maybe that's something that we need to look into more. That isn't necessarily related to our school, but we could help provide people to work at those centers. And like I also said, we could partner with people currently in town that want to have daycares but maybe don't have the right facility for it or something like that, and we could partner with them and create a facility, maybe get more of those instructors to come and work for us so we can offer more, we have more spots for students.
Thank you. Mr. Winter?
I again think it's a big legislative problem. I think that they've, kind of put in a lot of rules and stuff, and I do understand it's a double-edged sword. We want our children safe and stuff, but we also don't want to make it so hard to be a daycare provider that you decide to drop out. So I'm not sure that it's necessarily the school's, I'm not going to say I'm not sure it's our problem to solve, but I think that we have worked really hard at it with Governor Dayton passing stuff or pushing for 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. We've had a lot more education at that age starting up in programs. We've done a lot more daycare stuff at Washington Learning Center. I think when we opened it up as a learning center, we thought, man, this is really going to be a big place. How are we going to refill it? And I think that we're kind of busting at the seams now. I think the struggle is also, again, having enough qualified people that want to do that work. And so while we know there may be a need out there, we also have to be cautious. And I really do appreciate our superintendent and administration taking the time to not just, throw everything in the kitchen sink at stuff, but taking time with us and doing a lot of board studies and planning and figuring out where we want to go year by year, and just being very mindful that we have to be able to retain this stuff, and we have to be able to move forward. And so I think we're doing a great job. I think we're doing probably as much as we can. We're plans to do a little more if the facilities and we have people available, personnel. So
Thank you. Ms. Sunderman.
Well, I agree with what everyone up here has said. Yeah, we do. Our early childhood care that we have is, but like Dwayne said, busting at the seams. We do have waiting lists. And I think we do need to work with our state and our legislators. We need to work on lobbying to get additional funding so we can grow the program and possibly open up new areas to be able to have those additional students or children and help them get off those waiting lists. And I agree with Amanda when she said we need to work with our businesses and try to maybe get some of them to start an on-care daycare or on-care childcare site within that. And I think that would be very beneficial to some parents because you can just take your child right with you to work and drop them off. You can go see them on your lunchtime. And I think that would maybe play into our behavior issues and our mental health issues. There's just the parents having that opportunity, and it's a little less stressful in the mornings and in the afternoons for them as well.
Thank you very much. The next question: what is District 88 doing to provide more technical education? What should be added in the future? And we'll begin with Ms. Sunderman.
Okay. I think that our superintendent and our staff have been doing a good job at researching and making connections within our community of what is needed by employers and what employers are looking for in those technical fields. And we have added new classes in the last few years we have new medical classes when we've been working with the medical center with those, and we have like our welding and our carpentry classes. We've added additional technical. We have the culinary arts, and we've partnered with someone in the community that is a professional in that field as well. And what was the other part of the question?
Well, just what could be added in the
What
future?
could be added?
What
I
should
think
be?
just to continue to partnership and make those connections with the community. We have community members that do come into our classrooms now and talk with students about their trades and about what they do, what they're looking for. And I think that's a very good opportunity for our students and for the schools, and that we could just increase and grow upon what we are doing now.
Thank you. Next will be Mr. Winter.
So for technical education, I think that our partnerships with our community businesses are really important. I think our superintendent's done a great job of getting out there and asking those questions. And then I think getting our administration to be involved in the community and also listening and being able to hear. So I think, some of our equipment when we remodeled was out of date, and we were teaching students things that were no longer being used. So I think it's really important to invite those people in and let them be part of the curriculum. And I think that that's the where the legislature is going. I know that's where we're going. I think it's so important so that our students learn things and are certified, so when they graduate, they can go get a job if they want, and they can still go on for further schooling, and they can still work at a high-end paying job. It's awesome. Worked really hard on one-on-one initiatives, with technology. I think that's important because I think technology is so important and a vital part of our kids' lives as they go out. Certainly unlike my life, but even these younger people, it's just so important. We have an Apple person coming in and working with our teachers and our administrators to figure out, what do we want? What devices do we want in the schools that our students use? We're doing a lot of the research and stuff before we go ahead and do that. And then I think just staying up to date, and it's expensive. So again, I think we are blessed that our community has been so loyal in helping fund us so we can keep our students up to date on what they, need to learn technically.
Thank you. Mr. Gog?
To add to all that, like you said, the new school has a lot of things to offer that we couldn't offer before because of the things that were put in place. Commercial kitchen, much better equipment in industrial arts, welding, things like that. Touching back to the apprenticeship program, students are out in other businesses learning what things are available. And so, the sky's the limit as far as that goes. But we need businesses to really contact us and say what's available for some of that. And that helps a lot. Like I said, we are working with a lot of outside businesses already. And soon one of our teachers actually at the high school will have his contractor's license so they can start building homes again.
Ms. Grebner?
Yes, so this has been something that our community has been working on for a while. At the 2016 community visioning, this was listed as one of the top 8 things to come out of it. So the business community has been working directly with the schools, and the schools have been working directly with the business community ever since then. And they were before, but I think it's been ramped up since then. I don't know how we can be doing a lot better. We communicate with the businesses. We have internships, like we've said. We've talked to them about what we need. The students even had a career and technical expo, where businesses actually got to come up to the schools, and the kids got to show off the things that they were doing in the school and all of the different classes. So I think there really is a great partnership already going. So what we would need to do is just make sure that keeps going and expand it into lots of different areas. I mean, we're doing egg, we're doing restaurants, all kinds of things. So just really continuing to evaluate what our students want, number one, and what our community wants and needs, and make sure that we are constantly evaluating and changing how we are doing things to meet both of those needs.
Thank you very much. And now we'll move to a question that has a little bit to do with the environment and with the physical plant that the buildings occupy, as well as education. And this is the question. Have you identified steps the district can take to reduce the carbon footprint of school operations, as well as to encourage others to reduce their carbon footprint? And we'll begin with Ms. Grebner.
Well, it's obviously a very important issue. The school district installed a greenhouse and was given funds to install solar panels on top of that greenhouse to teach the students how that technology works, and maybe as a model for doing a larger scale at the school in the future. So I could see that our schools could be maybe moving in the direction of solar energy, maybe putting in some more solar panels, if we have the space for them. I know there's lots of fields up there, so we don't want to, mess up with the sports fields, but that maybe we could find some room to put in some solar panels. That's and also that's a very important career that's happening down in Minnesota, especially southern Minnesota. So it would give our students more hands-on experience with that. So I could see that happening. Just making sure that we reduce, reuse, recycle in our schools. It's really simple as that. Making sure that we have recycling bins everywhere and students know how to use them. We have composting bins. Compost is a really important thing. It's great for getting fertilizer for those gardens that are out in the schools right now. The STEM lab has a great garden, so we can do composting with the food that the kids don't eat at lunch. Teaching them to reduce waste. That's another big thing, is only take what you're going to eat, and don't waste your food. There's a lot of different things that we can be doing, and I think I think it's an important issue that we definitely need to look into. And we are already.
Thank you. Mr. Gog.
I think a couple of the ways that we've tried to help is making sure there's bike paths to each school, and the short share of the roads that the city has done. The school always participates in the walk or bike to school day. And other than making the high school parking lot smaller, I don't know what we're going to do to help kids carpool, because they're not going to do it. We could increase busing, but that again is a funding issue. And so beyond that, there isn't a whole lot that, other than education, what they can do outside of school.
And Ms. Zunderman.
Well, Steve and Amanda have mentioned quite a few good things that our school is already doing. And I think another important aspect would be to make sure we're educating our students on the environment and what our effects have on the environment of different things. What are cars, our electricity, everything, and start them out at a young age and give them that knowledge and that information. And then as they grow and they're exposed to it, then I feel that they'll probably start to make their own decisions of turning the light out at home when they leave the room, or making sure they're not just standing with the refrigerator door open. Just simple little things that we can educate the students about to help the whole environment. And I do know in our schools as well, we have all like the lights, the motion detector lights, sensors. So our lights do go off in rooms that aren't being used, in like the bathroom, and then they go on when someone walks in there. So that is another step that the school has that we've taken to kind of try to help cut back on some of that. And an idea, and I know I've talked at the board meetings or have talked about that, a wind power idea of up there, because it is a windy area up at the top of that. We do have however, the airport, that would need to be a consideration there. So, that would be kind of tricky, so I'm not sure if that's quite possible, but.
Mr. Winter.
Yes, I agree with what these guys have said. The solar panels, we are working on that. We're currently working with the city. I think I believe that we had plans to have the solar panels up, but due to some different things with the city and some different parts that needed to be ordered and stuff, and I think we're working with Paul's Electric, which has been wonderful. We're going to get those up, and I see more availability there. I know we talked about wind once upon a time. I'm not sure that's viable, but it's we might as well have those conversations. Leave everything, put everything out on the table. I believe education. Yes, we need to educate our not just our students, but our families and stuff. I remember in high school, the question being when we had a person come and does an electric shaver take more energy than shaving with a razor? And everybody was like, oh no, it's the electric one. And they've proven that, most people let the water run while they're doing the shaving, and so it actually costs more energy to do a straight razor than it does an electric razor, So to being educated on all of that stuff, electric cars, what is the future, and just being, again, educated on where it's going and being part of the answer, because I think our students can be part of the answer and will probably be much more willing to learn and to be part of the answer. I think costs teach them what stuff costs, and then how you can save on that, because my kids are just as guilty as everybody else is probably. I haven't done the greatest job of teaching them, come on now, shut those lights off when you leave, or shut the TV off, or don't leave your car running when you come inside and stuff, and all that. And then I love the gardens idea. I just think we owe it to our students to get back to the basics somewhat too, so I think they're missing that a little bit.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And now the last question for tonight, followed by your closing remarks. Does District 88 meet the Minnesota requirement for one full-time nurse per 1,000 students? And we'll begin with Mr. Winter.
Do we meet the needs for one full-time nurse? And if that's the requirement, I would assume that we do meet it. So if we're not, we need to know. I guess we're a board, and we sit and we do policies, and we make sure that the policies are met. That's why we hire our only employee is our superintendent. So as a board, we have one voice together. We're not individual voices. And so we move together, and our only employee is the superintendent, and he is in charge of making sure that our policies and stuff are met. And so I'm going to be under the assumption that we do meet it. If we don't, then we need to know that and change something.
Ms. Sunderman?
I agree with Dwayne on that. I'm not quite up to speed on that particular requirement, but I know we do have a full-time RN that works from the county, so she's partnerships with the school. We contract with them. And so I know we do have someone that does come into our buildings that helps with testing and things, but I am not up to date on if that is the requirement, if we have everything met, but then it needs to be brought to our attention so we can address it and we can figure out what we need to do to make sure that we are where we need to be.
Thank you. Ms. Grebner?
I would pretty much have the same answers as Dwayne and Melissa. I'm not on the school board currently, so I don't have the inside knowledge that my fellow panelists do. But if the question is, do we have one, if the requirement is one nurse per 1,000, we definitely have more than 1,000 students. So if we only have one nurse, then we don't meet the requirement. So, I mean, that is just what I would say for the math, but if that's not how I'm reading it, then I might be reading it incorrectly, and I would defer to, like they said, Mr. Bertrand, as he is in charge of those things, and we oversee that. The board does.
Thank you. Mr. Gog?
Yeah, again, I have no knowledge of what the law or legislation is on that one. But I would certainly expect if somebody has that concern that they would come forward to member of the board or administration. We don't look for problems, but we do take care of them when we hear about them. So I'm sure this is going to be something we're going to be discussing Thursday night at our next meeting. And again, I know we have nurses or pairs that help in the nursing office at each school. Mm-hmm. And so I know we do have first aid, and we've got crisis teams at each school that help with emergencies also. So I think we're safe, but if we're meeting the law, I have no idea. So I look forward to finding out.
Right. Well,
And can I just say that our superintendent is shaking his head, yes, we do meet the law.
Okay.
Just so everybody's at ease.
That's good. Now we're going to begin the portion. You each have 2 minutes to make closing remarks. In the event that you wanted to elaborate or so on earlier, this is your chance, but you can make it as much or as little as you wish, as long as we stay within 2 minutes. So we'll begin tonight with Ms. Sunderman.
All right. As we all know, the Board of Education plays a critical role in continuing to improve the education of all our children. I recognize that we are fortunate to live in a community where our education and our school system is valued. Being an effective board member requires collaboration and creative thinking to ensure our resources are invested in our students and that our tax dollars are used effectively and efficiently. If elected, I will encourage the proposal of new initiatives to improve the education of all our children. I will listen and reflect to the concerns of our community and work collaboratively with fellow board members to continue improving our schools. I believe that we have tremendous teachers and staff that are working with our children, and I will be committed to maintaining the superior quality of education that we have come to expect in this community. And I thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Winter?
Yes, I would like to thank the League of Women Voters, the audience that we have with us this evening here and at home, and also like to thank the community for having elected me in the past. I would like to continue serving you. I think that, we've passed referendums, not just for funding, but also for building. I think that we have done a great job of community involvement and increasing pride in our community. It's very strong. I see our enrollment increasing, which is a very good problem to have. I see us adding teachers, adding administrators, adding curriculum directors, and really working hard with technology, and I'd like to see that continue. I don't want to see us stagnate. I want to see us offer innovation and really help the teachers be great at their job, and not just the teachers, but the paras and the other staff too. I think we really work hard. I think as a board we really work well. Would like that to continue. I have 12 years on the board. I have a record out there, so I would say, vote on that. And if you don't like what's been going on, I'm sorry, but I think that what we have done has been fantastic for our community, for not just our students, but for our families and for our business community, and so I think that we really have done a great job here. So I ask you to vote. Everybody get out there and vote. Be active, be part of the solution, and help us find the solutions. And that's what I think this is here, and this is helping us. I'd like to, I think about what we've done as a board as far as even the change in superintendent. We had a fantastic superintendent before, and I think we've hired a fantastic superintendent now, and I think that that's been our biggest job and responsibility, and we've met that challenge. So I would ask for your vote again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Winter. Mr. Gog?
Thank you again to the League of Women Voters for the forum tonight. Thank you for the crowd that showed up. Most of our meetings have one or two people that show up, and so this is kind of nice. Not only can we talk about what we believe in the school board, but this whole thing is a good marketing for the school. Everybody gets to hear things that we're doing lately. Otherwise, we don't get a lot of reaction. So I am asking for your vote tonight for school board, so I may continue to serve the New Ulm community. During my term in the past 8 years, the board has had many accomplishments. Of those accomplishments, a couple are the community approving the building referendum that gave us students a new school, as well as remodeled schools, updated safety plans, and additional early childhood learning opportunities. We continue to upgrade technology in all of our buildings and give our students more opportunities. And don't forget to vote November 6th.
Ms. Grebner?
Yeah. So thank you again for League of Women Voters for having the forum. Thanks for everybody for coming out and watching at home, taking time out of your busy schedules to be informed voters. That's really important. I've really enjoyed listening to and talking with all of the other candidates up here. I think the board is a very well-run board, thanks to Dwayne's leadership and the cooperation and collaboration of the board. So I'd like to be a part of that. And I'd be honored to serve with any of them up here. New Ulm is unique and strong, and that we have 3 really good educational systems to offer our students, and I hope to continue the collaboration that I've already seen between the schools, because in the end, our students are our shared #1 priority. And I would be new to the board, but I'm a fast learner, a hard worker, passionate about education, excited about the programs in and the future of our district. And I believe that my background as an educator and my experience volunteering for the schools makes me an ideal candidate for school board. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you, candidates, very much for your thorough answers and your respectful way of conducting this forum. And I want to thank the audience for your great questions and for being here tonight. I think you will all deserve a round of applause.